So, what do a 15 million-year-old giant beaver, Cracker Barrel, Buc-ee's, Japanese 7-Elevens, and one of the most legendary delis in Los Angeles have in common? I'll just tell you. The American gas station. Hear me out. I went down a rabbit hole on Buc-ee's, which is genuinely my favorite pit stop in Texas, and somehow ended up in paleontology, the interstate highway system, Cracker Barrel selling gas, rock stars in an LA deli, and why we keep reinventing the places we stop when we travel. And the first thing I found may be the most Texas contribution to paleontology I've ever heard. So first, the 15 million-year-old beaver fossil. And no, before you ask, this fossil has nothing to do with the fossil fuels that Buc-ee sells. If it did, that would make this story way too perfect. In 2020, University of Texas researchers were studying beaver fossils from the Texas Gulf Coast. And one of these researchers was driving down a Texas highway and he sees a Buc-ee's billboard that says, "This is beaver country." And he's like, yeah, it has been for millions of years. So when the species was formally named in 2023, they named it after Buc-ee's, which again may be the most Texas contribution to paleontology I've ever heard, which got me thinking about Buc-ee's. I love Buc-ee's. And if you've ever driven across Texas or through Texas, you know Texas is fucking enormous. So when you finally see that beaver on the highway, you're like, okay, we can get gas, I can use a clean bathroom, more importantly, I can get a brisket sandwich, and their beef jerky is so good. But here's what I started thinking. Buc-ee's isn't really just a gas station. It's a roadside stop, and humans have needed some version of those for basically as long as we've traveled. But 200 years ago, you weren't looking for a Buc-ee's. You were looking for a trading post, a general store, a stagecoach shop, somewhere to rest, eat, get supplies, find out what was ahead, take care of whatever was carrying you, and keep moving. Then horses gave way to trains gave way to cars, and America started building highways. And once I started looking into what happened to these stops, once America really started taking to the roads, I found something I genuinely had no idea about. Cracker Barrel used to be a gas station. Did you know Cracker Barrel, home of the chicken and dumplings, was created originally to sell gas? Because I didn't. When Dan Evans founded Cracker Barrel in Tennessee in 1969, he had been working for his grandfather's oil company that he had founded as a shell oil jobber, basically a wholesaler and distributor of gas. And this was right as the interstate highway system was transforming the way Americans traveled. People were driving farther. New roadside businesses were popping up everywhere, and Evans saw an opportunity. He built a gas station right off the highway, but he needed to give travelers a reason to choose his stop. So he adds a small restaurant and a gift shop, and he calls it Cracker Barrel. And I love what he told Forbes later in an interview about the old-fashioned atmosphere that they were going for. He said, "We aimed for authenticity, but without the outhouses." Because while other roadside gas stations and businesses were embracing this shiny, modern vision of the future, Evans basically went in the opposite direction. He overloaded the place with nostalgia and recreated the old country stores he remembered from his childhood. Food, shopping, all this old Americana with gas pumps out front, because that was Evans' original goal, to sell more gas. So Cracker Barrel was consciously taking this old American institution and reinventing it for people who were traveling on the new interstate. So stay with me. 13 years after Cracker Barrel opens, a 22-year-old Texas A&M construction grad named Arch Beaver Applin III opens a little convenience store near Lake Jackson, Texas. Here's what I didn't know. Applin had basically grown up around a general store. His grandparents had a little general store in Louisiana that he actually used to pump gas at in their single gas pump that they had. Applin's dad is in construction, so he goes off to Texas A&M, studies building construction, and after he graduates, he joins the family's construction business. And when he decided to open the first Buc-ee's, he didn't just come up with the concept. He has said that he personally did the design and the construction of the first few stores. Even the name has this really wholesome origin. He had a Labrador named Buc, and his own nickname was Beaver, and he remembered the beaver mascot from Ipana toothpaste. Buc, Beaver, Buc-ee Beaver, and eventually Buc-ee's. And that little convenience store, a 22-year-old construction grad built in 1982, today Buc-ee's is estimated to be worth billions. Here's another thing I never really thought about too much until I started researching Buc-ee's. The bathrooms may be one of the smartest things Buc-ee's gives away for free. But think about what happens when you choose Buc-ee's when you need to pee. You don't pay to use the bathroom, but it gets you out of your car and through the doors. And now you're standing in what is basically a giant impulse purchase machine that smells like brisket. A drink? Sure. Jerky? Obviously. Beaver nuggets? Oh, look, Christmas Buc-ee. And none of these purchases individually feels like you're really shopping, except suddenly you went inside to pee and somehow spent $47. And over time, Buc-ee's took this ancient roadside stop idea and went absolutely fucking Texas with it. Massive stores, rows and rows of fueling positions, award-winning bathrooms, barbecue, beef jerky, food, clothes, home decor, souvenirs, an entire lifestyle built around a cartoon beaver. Buc-ee's just keeps stacking reasons to stop. They even built a 255-foot car wash at the Buc-ee's in Katy, Texas. It became the Guinness World Record holder for the longest car wash in the world, because apparently even washing your car at Buc-ee's needs to be Texas-sized. But underneath all of that Texas-sized ridiculousness is something genuinely smart. Travelers need somewhere they trust to stop along the way. And Buc-ee's figured out how to turn convenience into browsing. You stop because you need something, and they give you reasons to stay. Which brings me to Los Angeles, California. Texas and LA looked at the same completely ordinary American experience of stopping for gas and asked, why can't this be better? And the answers are almost comically true to where they came from. Texas said, make it huge and give us brisket, and LA said, make it beautiful and give us matcha. Honestly, I want both. Okay, so what happens when the fourth generation of one of Los Angeles' most legendary restaurant families decides the American gas station kind of sucks? Apparently, you get Maggie's Refuel. The guy behind Maggie's actually comes from one of LA's most iconic restaurant families. Alex Cantor is fourth generation Cantor's Deli. And we're not talking about some trendy new restaurant. The Cantors have been in the deli business since 1924, and Cantor's Deli has been in the same Fairfax location since 1953. Over the decades, it's become this late-night LA institution. Movie stars, musicians, the Sunset Strip crowd, Guns N' Roses used to hang out there. Slash has talked about how he practically grew up there. And Alex Cantor literally did grow up in that world. So before Maggie's, he grew up in a family business that had already learned something really important. Food can turn into a place that people actually want to be. And now he's taking that family history into something different. The gas station. He's preparing to open Maggie's Refuel. Now, Maggie's and Buc-ee's are obviously very different on the surface. Buc-ee's is built for the highway, and Maggie's is taking on the neighborhood gas station. No enormous travel center, no 100 gas pumps. You're not 3 hours into a road trip in Texas. You might just be driving around LA on a Tuesday. But here's something really interesting about what Cantor said about Maggie's. He said that he was partly inspired by Japanese 7-Elevens because going into a convenience store in Japan can actually be something you want to do. You wander around, you discover things, there's fresh food you actually want to eat, and you leave with 5 things you had absolutely no intention of buying, which, when you think about it, is just a different version of the same thing Buc-ee's figured out in Texas. Except Maggie's may be trying to take it one step further. The most ambitious thing Maggie's might be trying to do isn't just to make you buy more stuff when you just need to pee, refuel, or recharge. It's to make you stop when you don't need any of those things at all. Maybe you want the matcha, maybe you want the pastry or the soft serve, maybe you saw it on TikTok and you just want to check it out. And if Maggie's can actually pull that off, the gasoline or the recharge actually becomes secondary. And look at the people advising Cantor. One of them is Jim Keyes, the former president and CEO of 7-Eleven. Another is Meredith Sandland, executive vice president and chief development officer at Starbucks. So you have expertise from a company that helped define modern convenience retail and another that helped turn coffee into a destination, both being applied to the gas station. Oh, and Maggie's is named after Cantor's Frenchie, Maggie. Remember Buc-ee's? Partly named after Aplin's Labrador, Buck. So apparently, if you want to reinvent the gas station, step 1, get a dog. And here's where my little rabbit hole becomes almost entirely full circle. Remember Cracker Barrel, the restaurant that started with gas pumps? Those gas pumps eventually disappeared. But decades later, Cracker Barrel started installing EV fast chargers at some of its restaurants. And Cracker Barrel itself called it a nod to our past. So Cracker Barrel went from fueling cars to not fueling cars to fueling cars again, just with electricity. And that is the connection I hadn't thought about before. The transportation keeps changing. The stop survives. Trading Post, General Store, Cracker Barrel, Buc-ee's, Maggie's, and whatever comes next. We haven't actually invented anything new. We've just been revising the same stop every time the way we travel changes. Different dogs, different cities, different generations, different technologies, same basic human needs. Give us somewhere we actually want to stop. And maybe that's why I love this rabbit hole so much, because humans have this tendency to take these completely ordinary necessities of life and eventually ask, how can I make this better? And Buc-ee's may look like an absurdly Texas invention, but conceptually, it's one of the oldest businesses in America. We just replaced the horses with cars and added a fuck ton of beef jerky.